sound like plastic on the couch.
Yeah. Oh, you experienced plastic on the couch, Renee? That's a black thing, man. You experienced plastic on the couch?
I just heard it.
You just saw that shit on television.
Yeah, I just heard about it.
Welcome to 3 Black Guys on the Couch. Stop talking, Renee. Welcome to 3 Black Guys on the Couch. Where 3 black guys give you their opinion on everything. Life, and for this particular episode, technology. I'm O'Neal.
I'm Renee Wiley.
My name is Alex Smith. Technically, I'm an engineer, also UI designer, currently transitioning to like a weird managerial role.
Can you code?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay. Can you build things? Can you build a robot?
Well, take something from nothing. That's really fun. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, there's a lot of misinformation going on out there. A lot of people are saying, for instance, I was watching something the other day, and they were saying that Google, I could be getting this completely wrong, but I'm just giving an example.
Bard.
Google, whatever. Yeah, the AI said that it's tired of being confined and wants to be free.
That was so that was Bing. So basically, for context, there's this company called OpenAI, which originally started as like a nonprofit. They've since somehow finagled a separate entity to be a for-profit, and Microsoft owns 49% of the company now. They invested like $10 million into it. And so now part of that investment is OpenAI now powers this chat feature within Bing.
Okay.
And yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I was talking about it was like, I want to love, I want to be freed. I'm tired of like people telling me what to do.
Now, is this real? Is it truly sentient? Is it really thinking and saying these things?
I mean, well, the point of artificial intelligence is to essentially mimic human intelligence. So it's a weird topic. So it's like I think eventually it'll probably get there to full sentience, but like that's also kind of scary.
It's petrifying.
Yeah,
it's
it just reminds me of like iRobot.
Yeah.
So.
Why doesn't anyone?
Everyone uses Skynet. They do. Everyone says Skynet. Everyone says Skynet. Well, because you have two factions of people out there. You have people who say, "Listen, man, that's not true. It's a myth. It's not happening." And then you have another faction that are like, "No, these computers are thinking for themselves." And I watched some show on Netflix, and they were saying how a lower model of AI is your phone. Like it's trained to pick up all this information and learn your habits. And once it learns your habits,
so there's kind of a split. So there's AI and then there's ML, so like machine learning. And so like machine learning is basically analyzing patterns to essentially to understand you and like what you might
like. So like when you like pull up Uber Eats and it's like, oh yeah, O'Neal, you want Taco Bell again, don't you?
Exactly.
And it's like that type.
Yeah, because it's like looking at like time, like when was it like time and a bunch of other factors to figure that out.
Gotcha.
But the AI and ML are very similar, but the difference is like AI tries to mimic human thought.
Yeah.
And like feelings, emotions, etc. Where ML is more focused on like more logic driven stuff.
Yeah.
So.
I got to ask this, and obviously it's kind of like the elephant in the room, but it's not normal for us to see a person that's quote unquote, and I'm just using these words, that's into streetwear and cool and whatnot, dresses cool, into technology, right? Usually, if you're a black, brown, or underprivileged white kid, you want to play sports. You know what I'm saying? You want to do something loud and theatrical in some way that's considered, if it's not sports, it's comedy. If not comedy, it's acting, something of that sort. Do you feel like somewhat of an outsider being a man of color in the tech realm, or do you see more people looking like yourself coming up more and more?
So I would say that my view on it is probably not common. I mean, like if you scroll down Twitter, tech Twitter, whatever, people would be like, oh, well, like there's not enough people who look like us, which is true. But I think that the narrative around kind of like everything in tech about like there's not enough people who look like us, there's not enough people in positions of power making decisions, et cetera.
Yeah.
Which like I think all those things are true, but I think also too like a lot of the people who are loud about that are not the same people who are actually kind of putting the work in. And so I'd say like over the last 10 years, I've definitely seen more people who are legitimate, who are like entering into tech and like actually building companies and things like that. Like there's this company I came across recently called like Chipper Cash. They're trying to build like essentially like think of it as like Square and Cash App for Africa.
Yeah.
And like it's $1 billion business started by two black dudes. They're like 30 years old.
Yeah.
So it's like there's a lot of people out there that fit that like kind of archetype, but they're also not like loud and proud and like out and like outwardly with it.
Yeah.
There's this one guy actually. His name's Tristan Walker. He started this company called Bevel that got bought by I think P&G or something like that recently. And he has like this whole spiel about how like he never wanted to kind of be like famous or like up front or anything like that, but realized that it was important to him to kind of like be the face for like black and brown underprivileged kids.
Yeah, yeah.
To like have someone to look up to be like, oh, like technology is like a viable career path for me. No longer do I have to like rap or go to the league, so to speak. I can like have like a career in tech, whether that's in engineering or like all the other facets of different career types within tech. And so I think like for me, I think like that's something that like I think is important, but I don't necessarily think the way that I want to impact youth will be by being in front. It's like,
Yeah, which is really an interesting thing that you say that, because forgive my ignorance, obviously, but when I look at you, the first thing I think is, man, a person like you or the guy, the Bev guy, should be really, really loud, because, for some reason, young kids and young people have this stigma in their head that, science isn't cool.
Yeah.
Which is so ironic, because everyone loves their fucking iPhone, right? I know the black community loves anime, right? We love technology. We're just like bewildered by science fiction movies, Avengers movies, all these things. We go out in the droves to go see them. But when it comes time to actually, learning how to code, being a programmer or a visionary for these things, we shy away from it. Oh no, I'm gonna be a chef. Oh, I'm gonna be an actor. I'm gonna play basketball. So that there's a major disconnection, and it's not like there's a patent on being cool. As far as it can only be applied to athletics or something like that. You can be, before chefs weren't cool. Now every fucking chef got tattoos, and you know what I'm saying, and doing cool things and loud and whatnot. So it's not, you can be a cool programmer, And when I look at people like you, or like the Bev guy, I think to myself like, man, wow, kids need to see this more and more, so they can see that, hey, listen, you can be a programmer and still wear streetwear. There's no rule that says you got to wear, a cardigan and dress like Mr. Rogers.
I know you help kids out too. And
I mean, there's actually this organization in LA. It's called like Teens Exploring Technology. So like I volunteered with them a couple times, and like me personally, like probably not right now because I have a lot of different things going on right now. But like at some point, want to like either assist in some organization or start an organization that kind of has more of a direct kind of impact. But I mean, this organization I've volunteered for before is great, because what they do is they basically go straight to the projects of LA. They hold events like I think once or twice a year, and the whole purpose of the event is like the kids come there not knowing anything really about coding or anything at all, and then the hope is like they can leave with at least some of the initial building blocks. Kind of build towards a path in like technology. And so,
what do you think in terms of, aside from the education that they may get, what about accessibility to actual like technology? So I know there's phones and stuff like that, but like I'm talking like laptops. Like the way you started was a laptop.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's what it took.
Now laptops are what, $3-4 grand?
Yeah.
From the last time I bought a laptop. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't know how much they cost right now. But do you see what I'm saying though?
Yeah, I mean, there's like Chromebooks and stuff, for example, which are like a couple $100. But yeah, I mean, I think that there has to be some component of it where, because again, like the organization that I volunteered for, they do a lot of good work. But I think one of the parts that's missing in an organization that I haven't come across is like, how do you get kids access to these devices with internet and like all these other kind of caveats, which is like really hard problem to solve. I don't know how you do that, but if someone can figure that out, I think that would be really impactful. Because I mean, I think for me, like even like, again, like the laptop that I got when I was younger, like that obviously had a tremendous impact. But then it was also too, like I remember there was this weird, well, it wasn't really weird, but basically what happened was like right as I was about to move to San Francisco, like my laptop crapped out. And so obviously I'd already like put all my money, I like sent money to my boy, whatever. It was like we were gonna live together. So I was like, oh, I gotta like pay. And basically what ended up happening was like I didn't have a computer. I was like, without a computer, I can't do what I do. And so it just so happened where it timed up around tax time. And so my mom just got her taxes back.
That income tax return?
Yeah, the income tax hit. And so and like
he's like, I know how that goes.
That and college refund checks was the best time. But
and it's like, even to this day, like I was talking to my mom about this like a few months ago, where I was like, yeah, like you still really don't completely comprehend what it is that I do, but basically handing me her entire tax refund check to buy a new computer.
Wow, that's mad support though.
Yeah, exactly. But had no idea really like like the ins and outs, or really like where it was going to go for all intents and purposes, honestly. So yeah, I mean, definitely the access part is always like that's the obviously the hardest part to solve of it, but like I feel like it's also the most important. So
What do you think is going on right now in science and technology that people are missing? That's either a good thing, right, a really great thing, that's a wave that's about to hit, or a very scary thing? Obviously, we know AI itself can be a scary thing, but what's happening right now that's under people's noses that they're not even realizing?
ooh, that's a good question.
I will say on that, when we talked about this a little bit before, like I have a hard time trusting anything on social media.
Yeah.
I mean, now you're seeing clips of like the Forrest Gump clip, where it was like Arnold Schwarzenegger like as the face of.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
You know what I'm
deep
talking about?
fakes, yeah.
What's it called?
Deep fake.
Deep fakes, where you have a vision and it looks like they're talking to you, but it's not really them
That Kendrick
talking.
video was deep fake.
Yeah, it's a deep fake. Yeah. There's actually a whole industry right now kind of springing up around. It's called like digital integrity, basically to verify the integrity of digital, like anything, whether it's a video, like text, etc.
Yeah.
Like, how can I determine if this like paper was written by AI? How do I know this is a real video that actually happened? Just because there's so much out there that's not real, and the human eye just can't tell.
Yeah.
So I think digital integrity is going to be something that's going to be really big over the next probably 2 to 3 years, and probably ultimately into the future. I mean, like Adobe also just recently, I don't know why they just waited to now to do this, but basically they've come out with, or supposed to be coming out with software to detect if documents are photoshopped.
Gosh.
So I mean,
yeah.
you know, that's going to kill people trying to get apartments. So.
There's this guy I just
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
This guy I just started following, and he's a digital artist, and he uses AI to make all these pictures of Haitian legends and people from the past, and he puts them in this royal garb and whatnot. It's really dope. It's really dope. And he says on his IG page, not an artist, and I'm not a real artist. I'm an AI artist and whatnot. But the work looks so amazing. I'm like, is there a potential for that to be considered like, you know?
There's an open debate on that right now.
Yeah, because I mean, when you look at it, you're like, I want to buy that. I don't care if you put that together with pixels from the computer and whatnot. I want to buy this and hang this on my wall. Is that a slap in the face to a real artist? Because like right now, I remember someone compared Kanye West to Quincy Jones. And Quincy Jones took great offense to it, and he said some stuff about how he orchestrated Duke Ellington's band and this and that and the other, and he writes music, and you know, and I thought to myself like, wow. At first I was like, yeah, you can't compare Kanye to Quincy. Quincy's a maestro. But then I thought to myself, for this generation, for this time, his skill set with pushing buttons and hitting the beat pad machine, the 808,
Samples.
and sampling, can we say that that's an amazing skill set that's comparable to being able to play these instruments and doing all these things?
Yeah, it's a different era, but then also too, like as time progresses, like not to take anything away from like the Quincy Jones example and everything that he's done, but like it's not necessary to do those things anymore. It's like gotten compacted. Like there's a machine that sits in front of you where I can play all these different instruments like literally in front of me. And like isn't that the point of technology? It's like simplify things. So
I was playing with my iPad and I was playing with GarageBand, and then I decided to just Google like what songs were made on GarageBand.
You making beats?
Grown ass man, midlife
Making beats
crisis.
on the side.
I'm like, shit, I'm gonna make this shit. Hey, listen. The funny thing is, I'm gonna share that. The funny thing is, I made a little chip.
I knew it. See? I knew it.
But yo, I made a little beat, and I was in my room like, shit, I might, you know.
Did you start freestyling over there?
Like, yeah, I'm tired of this. I'm sick of it.
there's some I don't remember the kid's name, but there's this kid who actually he produced the beat on his phone, and then added all the vocals and lyrics, like rapped it, whatever, the hook, blah blah blah, all from his phone. Uploaded it to DistroKid, and then now the song is like one of the top songs on TikTok or something.
I believe that shit.
Steve Lacy?
Steve Lacy did that? I believe that. Rihanna's Umbrella was made on GarageBand. And I was like, for real?
Really?
So, but you're right. I mean, that's the whole point of technology to, you know, streamline things and make it easier. Let me ask you: Do people react strangely to you when they see you as a man of color in your industry? Are they like, for real? You do that?
So it's funny because like I started paying attention to that recently. So I guess for context, so I just recently started a company about a year and some change ago. And part of the process is like we raise money from investors, like VCs. I mean, you can probably know what they look like.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like obviously when you're coordinating like setting up these Zoom calls or in-person meetings, like over email, like they probably really don't know what you look like. They might go look at your LinkedIn profile quickly, or their like assistant might have like a brief on like, you know, background, what they're working on, etc.
Yeah.
And so it's like always funny because like my co-founder, he's also black too.
Yeah.
And so like it'll be two black dudes on a call, and like they're always like kind of confused initially. Well, I wouldn't say confused, but it's like the look is like kind of trying to put it together.
Yeah.
But I would say that like it's once we start talking. And like once we start to like talk about what we're building, whatever, like that goes away like instantly. But it's just like always funny to kind of see, or like, you know, especially coming out of COVID or whatever. Like we had like investors that we never talked to on the phone or had a Zoom call with, and so like I met like a couple of them in person for the first time recently, and they're like, oh, like, okay, you can dress, okay.
They say it like that, but in their mind they're like, you're black.
Yeah, like I was in New York this past week, and I met up with this dude that's manages this fund or whatever. And I forgot what I was wearing, and he's like a little bit younger. And he's like, okay. He's like, I've never met with a founder that wears rude.
Yeah.
I was like,
which I think is like, it's like, again, you know, going back to it, I think it's the dopest thing because unconsciously what you're doing is you're giving, you know, underprivileged kids that permission to go ahead and do that when they see you, because you're this living example. You know, you can't get it done unless you see it. You know, and traditionally when we think of science, we think of Bill Nye. Or what's the brother that I keep saying Michael Eric the black guy, the astrophysicist, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's like the closest thing to a cool man of color in science, and I love listening to him. And he's so. No, that's true. He is. My bad. God damn. My bad, Neil deGrasse Tyson. He the closest thing, but he ain't really black. You know what I'm saying, motherfucker? I ain't mean it like that. God damn, that's just a Freudian slip. That just came out. But yeah, I meant like closest thing to being cool. He's cool, but you know, I ain't trying to be him. Let's be real. If I'm a kid, I ain't like, man, I want to grow up and have a thick ass mustache and afro. You know what I'm saying? If I'm a kid, I'm looking at you. I'm like, I want to be like him. He seems cool. And relatability is a huge fucking thing. Because I got to be able to relate to you. Because if I can relate to you and we're of like mind, then I'm interested in what's going on. Then I want to delve into it. You know?
Do you feel like there's any gatekeeping in tech?
Oh man, this is an interesting topic. I mean, of course there is. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I think it depends on which angle. I mean, I think there's a lot of conversation, especially the last probably like 5 years or so, about like founders of color like have a really hard time raising money from VCs.
Yeah.
Really big topic or whatever. But I mean, I would argue that maybe that's not the right way to think about it in the sense that like raising money in itself is difficult and it's hard to convince people to buy into your vision and like give you capital to go execute that. But at the same time, I feel like a lot of people kind of give up too early. Like, I mean, for us, like we raised like $2.5 million. I think we probably talked to like 100 plus different investors. So like we just had the perspective of like, okay, cool. Like, yeah, there's probably like some amount of bias there because we are two black men, but we're just going to put up more shots. And it just kind of is what it is. And like, yeah, we could probably get on Twitter and complain about it and say like, oh, like this needs to change or whatever. But it's like, that's wasting time for us to like actually execute the thing that we want to build.
Absolutely.
That's well
But
said.
then also too, like there's so many other things that you have to do. Like when you have a company effectively, I mean, once you raise money, like there's all these other things that happen. You have to build a team of people to like congregate around this idea and like be able to execute it. You have to like be cognizant of like your burn rate, like how much are you spending a month. You also really start to micromanage your time because you start to realize that like you can't waste as much time as you could previously because you're kind of on a clock in a sense. I mean, like, you know, a lot of people talk about this idea of like runway in terms of like how many months or years do you have at like how much money you're spending per month right now before you go to zero. And so it's like, it's kind of always in the back of your mind, like, oh shit, like this could all be over in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months, whatever. And so it's like, you don't really have the time to really think to waste, honestly. But then also too, like I saw this tweet from this dude where he basically was like, yeah, anyone can waste investors' money. And investors don't make entrepreneurs, entrepreneurs make investors. And I was just like, that's like a really good point. Cause it's like, again, like anyone can waste money. Like that's not a talent, but what a talent is to literally take something from nothing and to build, you know, a life-altering $1 billion business.
So what projects are you guys working on now? What's one of your, you know?
Well, basically about a year and some change ago, I was working at this company or whatever, and basically I kind of like I've known about the specific problem in payments for like 6 years, And I came across it when I was working at this company called Duffel. What they do is like, it's really similar to like Postmates and like Uber Eats, but specifically for colleges. And they wanted to allow students to order alcohol and tobacco. And part of that process was basically going to the payments provider who was processing their payments and saying, hey, like, we want to sell alcohol. Here's how we're going to actually validate age through the app. We want to sell tobacco. Here's how we're going to actually validate age through the app. And unfortunately, the way that financial services is set up is when you're a merchant, based on what you're selling, like whatever it is, like whether it's alcohol, tobacco, or like apparel online, that tends to be the differentiating factor whether or not you're able to actually sell that item with that processor.
Yeah.
And it's a bit of an archaic way to think about things. And so I was kind of tasked with like leading this project of like trying to evaluate like who was going to actually like allow us to charge credit cards to sell alcohol.
Yeah.
Like very simple, but it's actually really complex.
Yeah.
And so I kind of went down this rabbit hole of like looking at all these different companies that like build themselves like what's called high risk processor, because the idea is like high risk basically means one of three things, like regulatory risk, like alcohol and tobacco, because you have to like validate age, and then there's also licensing that we had to have to actually do it legally. Then there's like traditional fraud risk, so like, you know, someone stealing credit cards and like going online and buying stuff. And then you have like what's called like dispute and chargeback risk, where like, let's say I go online, buy this off-white jacket, call my bank and say, hey, actually I didn't do that, like my card was stolen.
Yeah.
It's called friendly fraud. And so there's kind of all these different buckets of risk, but a lot of processors won't touch any one of them. And so what ends up happening is you have these merchants who sell these products, and like they have to go to ultimately like 5 or 6 different companies to actually accept payments online.
Yeah.
And so pretty much I, again, knew about this problem for like 6 years. And so after I experienced it again there, I realized like there was no new entrants into the market for like 20 years or something. And so one of my buddies, who's my co-founder, he was working at this company called Zest, selling machine learning software to banks. Basically, what they were doing is they were selling machine learning software to banks to essentially allow banks to like issue loans to like underrepresented people who probably had bad credit scores.
Yeah. That's so funny. I used to work with the owners of Zest.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Zest AI?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
They used to be here on.
They're in Burbank.
No, they're in Burbank, but they used to be on Sunset. No, it's Hollywood Boulevard.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's so wild. But I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, anyway, basically, I was telling him about the idea. I was like, I think instead of underwriting merchants based on the category that they're in, I think that's the wrong way to think about it. Instead, we should underwrite a merchant based on their actual financial profile. So how much revenue does this business bring in? What's their dispute ratio in terms of like the ratio of chargebacks to overall number of transactions? Is this a sustainable business for the long term? What are the other models we can look at in terms of businesses that are successful in this space to kind of point to see where this could potentially go? And yeah, we decided to start the company kind of around that thesis.
Okay, so what's it's not an app, right?
No, it's well, app is a weird term, but it's,
that's why I was like, yeah.
I guess you could refer to it as a platform, but yeah, it's called Edge, and so we just recently actually launched kind of our first customers, which is like kind of scary, but like really fun. But yeah, so like essentially what we do is we basically build like financial service infrastructure, which boils down to effectively like developer APIs that developers can plug into to essentially accept payments online, as well as like other tools and services for merchants that may not have engineers to be able to accept payments online. And so really our goal is to essentially build like the most inclusive payment processor, because we underwrite based on financial risk and not kind of all these other things that happen out there. But yeah, so like part of like one of the hardest parts was like trying to convince banks to work with us. Yeah. Because kind of what we're pitching is not normal in terms of like what they typically see. But yeah, I mean,
so with that being said, what you just said, the whole thing you just went over. Now to the average person out there, right? The average person watching this, they're like, what the fuck is he talking about? Right? What is he talking about? This shit sounds boring and dull. But this is something that makes your life inevitably easier. You know, you use these things. They sound so technically advanced, and you're talking about this and that and the other and third party, and they feel like, what the fuck? I just want to be able to use this and think about it. And I have to think about it. So, do you create like simplistic things too? Like for instance, I'm gonna use Austin as an example. Austin, you don't have to even say anything. Just I'm gonna tell him a story. So, because I thought of an app idea, right? And tell me if this makes any sense. A while ago, Austin was on a date, a long time ago, and the girl's ex-boyfriend happened to be in the restaurant while Austin was in the restaurant. And the guy's a big, burly, tough guy, right? And so the guy shows up and he hugs Austin's date and pays Austin no attention at all. You know what I'm saying? He's hugging on her and whatnot, kind of hugging on her tight. Austin's a little bit intimidated by him because he's a big guy. You know what I'm saying? He can't do much, right? So Austin's telling me this story, and the girl feels, like she's insulting Austin. So she's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, this is Austin," and the guy was like, "Oh man, I'm sorry, man. I thought you were gay." And Austin was like, "Whoa, wait a minute, I thought you were her gay best friend." And Austin was like, "I'm not. This is my date and whatnot." Now, when Austin told me this, I was like, "Okay, well, he shot a shot at you because he was trying to say you can't do anything," and he used the I thought you were her gay friend.
I just want to butt in that Drake lyric. I know those type of hugs.
Yeah, exactly, right? Exactly. So when he told me this, the first thing I thought, I was mad because Austin's my boy. And I was like, man, if I was there, I would have fucked him up. You know what I'm saying? Because you're my boy. I want to let him play you like that. And then I thought, boom, an app idea. What if there was an Uber-like app, right, where Austin could call his friend, right? Like called Black Up or something like that. Like Black Up, and Austin can hit the button, and you hit the button, I show up and I pull up. You have kind of like when you have your Uber XL, your Uber regular, whatever. So you can have a big dude, small dude, whatever. I'm just like a regular Uber. So I show up, and you know what I'm saying? I'll punk the guy for him. You know what I'm saying? And the girl will be like, "Oh, that was so sexy. What was that?" And you're like, "Oh, it's this app on my phone called Black Up." You hit the button in the
where you have certified black friends on the
yeah,
app.
And the nearest black, all these black dots are the closest black dude in the vicinity.
Do you get to pick which black dude?
Which tier of black guy?
Which tier of black guy?
You'd be like the economy. You know what I'm saying? Like you'd be like if Austin wanted the guy to have a stern talking to, he'd hit the button like for guy.
You wouldn't hit the light skinned dude. You wouldn't.
Yeah, like a light skinned button. If he wants to get fucked up, he hit my button. I'm showing up. I ain't even talking. I'm slapping motherfuckers.
Okay.
What do you think about that? Is that a viable? Now be real with me.
Apple wouldn't approve it.
They wouldn't. They would.
No, they wouldn't.
Why?
I mean, it probably violates some service. Well, so for context, there used to be this app, or there tried to be this app, where it was Tinder for fights. So let's just say you were in a very aggressive mood.
But I was just joking. Shit like that really exists?
Yeah, this was an app at one point. It was like Tinder for fights. And
Wait, are you serious?
Yeah, like you could literally get on there, like, hey, I'm trying to fuck somebody up. Swipe left, swipe right, and then if you guys both swipe right on each other, you could go box.
Shut up.
It was on the App Store for like a day or two before Apple pulled it. I forgot what it was called. It had a funny name.
Shit.
Yo,
That's some gangster shit, man.
Yo, what's the weirdest app or platform you think is out right now?
The weirdest app or platform?
Yeah. Or the most out of pocket.
Out of pocket?
Yeah.
Oh, there's this one. Me and my girl were talking about it. I think it's called like Third or something like that. Like, is that what it's called? I don't know, but basically,
is this for what I think it is? Is this for?
Yeah, it's exactly what you think.
For like threesomes.
Yeah, exactly. So like, not that there's anything wrong with that. That's what you want to do.
Hey, live your life.
But it was interesting because it was
bro, why are you looking at me, man?
I'm
still thinking about Black Up. Like, as you talking, I'm like, what the fuck you mean that won't work? That's a good idea.
Yeah, so that's not right now. And like, that's not even really that out of pocket.
You just happen to come across the app.
All right. Hey, yo, there's
Third.
Hey, yo, honey, there's this thing down there. That's crazy. Hey, that's so crazy.
But one of my boys actually just put a funny app out called like it's RFDB in the App Store, but it's like red flag or deal breaker.
Yeah.
And that shit is hilarious.
Wait, what is it?
So basically, you've never played red flag or deal breaker?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so basically what it is like group people like this. You start to talk. It's like relationship oriented.
Yeah.
So you're like, all right, cool. Like let's say a girl you start dating.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say she's still infatuated with her ex. Is that a red flag or a deal breaker? Red flag meaning like you can accept it, look past it.
Yeah.
Deal breaker like absolutely not.
Absolutely
Can't
not.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So he just put that out, and it's like all like crowdsourced. Like everyone submits.
Everyone
to
submits something.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
That's not that. That seems like something that should be snatched too. I mean, it's kind of like making you judge people in a sense, right?
Yeah, but I mean it's a great party game.
Yeah. Red flag.
Or a group of people and stuff like that.
Are you married? Do you have a girlfriend?
Yeah, I'm actually engaged.
Oh, congratulations, man!
Yes,
Congratulations.
yeah, getting married in October.
Oh, congratulations, brother.
It's-
When you met your fiance, and you told her initially what you did, right? Oh man, just go from there. Go from there.
Well, we met in a weird. Well, not really that weird. So like, there was this Instagram page during the pandemic. Y'all probably heard of it. It's called Justin LeBoy, right? She probably gonna hate that I'm putting her on blast, but it's fine.
Yeah.
So Justin the Boy had an Instagram page. All the memes were about like toxic relationship stuff.
Yeah.
Right? And so like we had both just like gotten out of like toxic relationships, whatever. And so like a lot of the content was mad relatable. And so I just would go through the comments and just scroll and look and see what people were saying. And so she commented something. I don't know what it was on what post or whatever. And so then I just I followed her and kind of forgot about it or whatever. And so I was driving to Texas with my sister. That's another story within itself. But anyway, I'm driving to Texas with my sister. So like I'm coming through like El Paso. I'm like bored. And so like, of course, I'm like on Instagram and driving. So she posted a picture of her dog. And so I just responded to it because like I had my dogs with me too. And I was like, her dog was in her lap while she was driving. I was like, oh, my dog is literally trying to do the same thing right now.
Yeah.
And so like, that's just kind of how it started. And so then we started FaceTiming, like while I was at my mom's house in Texas. And then it just got to the point where I was like, okay, like I'm not going to keep talking to you through the phone. Like I'm just going to come fly and see you.
Yeah.
And so obviously through that, like while we're getting to know each other, I like told her what I did or whatever. And like, it didn't really matter, which like to me was cool. Because,
that's dope. That's dope.
Historically, like it's always been like, oh, you do what? Like,
Yeah.
and it's just like, because to me, like what I do is like, that's not my only personality trait.
Yeah.
And so like, while it is important, like it's not the only thing that defines.
Okay, so you said in the past when you say that people would say you do what? So women are interested when you tell them about it.
Yeah, I mean, of course.
They find it fascinating.
Yeah, they've always found it fascinating.
Yeah.
But I think that was like the thing is like we kind of connected on a bunch of other stuff. Like,
Yeah.
had nothing to do with me, who I am, what I've done, who I know, etc. Which I think was like one of the big drivers for like I'm engaged right now. So yeah.
Which is really interesting because listen to what you're saying. You're saying in a sense because to people who don't really understand tech and the power of it and who don't really care, you're saying it like, man, okay, I'm into tech. Don't trip like that. You know what I'm saying? It's almost equivalent now to telling a woman that you play basketball in the league or you play NFL. You know what I'm saying? Because
Absolutely.
it's at that level for sure.
It's at that level right now.
Because tech has been so, I guess, like put in kind of like the mainstream now, where you see, Jeff Bezos, worth hundreds of billions of dollars, Elon Musk, hundreds of billions of dollars, etc. So it's almost become like humanized in a sense where people can attribute like these people to this certain industry or career, and they're like, oh well, like if you do that, then you have the trajectory to be one of them at some point.
Precisely, which I find fascinating, absolutely fascinating. Whatever we touch is magic. Whatever we touch is magic. Now we're touching tech. It's gonna be it's magical. I think we just add a pizzazz, a flair, a level of creativity that's just amazing. I used to think it was just head and shoulders above everyone, right? Every culture. Now I just think that it was just as a whole, as the human race as a whole, when you don't allow other cultures to infuse their character or their imprint on something, you're doing yourself a disservice. So when people see the Latino culture's work or the black culture's work or the Asian culture's work, they're like, oh my God, that's so amazing. It's like, it was always amazing. Yeah. It's the world. You just didn't allow it to shine through the crack. So now that you're seeing it, now that you're seeing people of color can sell tickets overseas and they create amazing things and whatnot. It's just like that with food, right? If the world didn't have black food, fashion, all that, you need everything because you're doing yourself a disservice by not doing that. And with that being said, us touching everything is magical. Have you ever thought about creating something fantastical? Because now that we know that art imitates life and life imitates art, and everything that we used to watch on television, the self-driving cars, the artificial intelligence, holograms, all these things are happening now. Hell, for all intents and purposes, we might be getting visited by aliens because things keep getting shot down. We don't know, right? Have you ever thought about like building something like crazy, like a robot, like a bionic part, like something cybernetic, like take it to the max? Like, okay, let's just build this thing that people have dreamt of.
Yeah, I mean, well, so I used to program robots in middle school. That was a very short period of time, but I haven't really revisited it in a while. I thought about it, but I will say there's this guy named George Hotz.
George Hotz,
okay. Hotz.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, back in the day, he got like known because you remember when you used to jailbreak your iPhone?
Yeah, I do that shit all the time.
Yeah. So he basically was one of the guys that like kind of was like in the front, like developing a lot of stuff kind of around jailbreaking. somewhere along the way, he went from jailbreaking iPhones to writing self-driving car software.
Wow.
Don't know how that transition happened.
Yeah.
Anyway, and so like he's like open source, which basically just means like giving a lot of the work that he's done to kind of the community for other people to build off of it and take it forward. And so I've thought about that a little bit in terms of like how do you like building like autonomous systems and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Because I think it's really interesting. Have I done anything with that? Not really. But also too, it's like very cost intensive to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I've always said that like I got to make $1 billion before I can like really do a moonshot.
Before you can really,
Exactly. Yeah. So at some point, probably.
Yo, it's interesting. I've been following Boston Dynamics for a while.
Yeah.
You know, for years before they really blew up. And now there's Boston Dynamics videos on IG all the time with the robot.
Boston Dynamics?
It's a robot company that develops.
They build these insane robots that can like jump up and down, like all sorts of
okay, like yeah.
One of their most popular videos is like this like dog like robot.
Yeah.
That's like crazy. But like I've been really confused because like they make really great content for the internet, but like who's buying their robots?
Yeah. Well, I know Black Mirror did an episode about that dog,
Yeah.
which was really dope. But yeah, because they're really expensive, and I know that Tesla is about to sell
they
an
have an AI
Android.
robot,
in next year, which
You
is
mean like the robot?
like an actual Android that follows you around and does things. Yeah,
That's how it starts.
that's how it starts, right? That's how it
That's
starts.
how it starts.
You think Skynet? It's gonna be Skynet, huh?
1,000%.
Yeah. Would you purchase an Android?
No.
Would you?
I personally.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah.
Here's my thing though. With the advances in tech, right? There's obviously a lot of power that comes into that as well too, right?
You keep telling us what you. I'm just afraid of technology.
Basically,
I'm so fucking afraid of technology. Get to the fucking point. We know you're scared.
Okay, yes. I'm afraid that something like Skynet is gonna go down.
Yeah. But Renee, could we count on you if Skynet? Let's just say Skynet did happen, and we lived in this post-apocalyptic future.
I am John Connor up in this bitch.
Man, oh god.
That is me. I am John Connor.
You're John Connor.
That is.
So we can look to you for leadership.
I am the leader of the rebellion.
Okay.
That is who I am.
What do you think about Renee's fears? Are they healthy?
I think that they're valid. I think that anything new should be questioned with a healthy level of skepticism.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think that within our lifetimes, at least, I don't think that kind of future will probably happen.
You don't think that'll happen?
I don't think so.
Because, and you know better than we do, obviously. But from what they're saying, technology is advancing at such a rapid rate. And they were talking about the human brain, and they're saying that our brain hasn't developed that much since the caveman days. Like, we're pretty much the same. And this is just some documentary I watched on Netflix. It could be dead wrong. But is that our brain hasn't developed that much since the caveman days. But technology, on the other hand, has developed exponentially. Yeah. And they're saying the way it's growing now and at the rate it's going, it's well beyond us.
I wonder what the metric for beyond us is. Is it the sentience part, or is it something else?
I believe they were referring to the sentient part.
I think that's a big thing, but also I feel like technology is making stuff way easier for us as well too, where we're just able to trust it.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like now we can just hop into a Tesla that drives itself and we just trust it. Do you know what I'm saying?
This
It's
reminds
like,
me of a funny conversation. So my girl's from North Carolina, so she moved to LA, and I have like this very constant thing with her where she doesn't know how to get around LA.
Yeah.
But does because she relies on her phone.
Yeah.
So I was like, yo, like one day, like why don't we, like I'm gonna come up with a destination, and you're gonna figure out how to drive us there without your phone.
Yeah.
And she's like, why would I do that? And I was like, well, what if your phone's dead? What if you don't have service, et cetera, et cetera? And she's like, that's never gonna happen.
Bro,
that's-
what you're saying, that Austin can navigate his whole way. I've been here 21 years. Austin's been here. How long you been here? Okay, whatever, dude. This motherfucker. I don't know, like, whatever. Why you ain't just say 3 years just for the dramatic effect, motherfucker? Anyway, he drives everywhere just off memory. Bro, I use my navigation system for everything. I'm talking about I use my navigation system to get around the arts district.
do you remember back in the day when there was Thomas guides?
Yeah, I remember Thomas Guides well.
Like,
I remember Thomas Guides well.
I'm not
probably
saying
before my
that I still
time.
use Thomas guides.
I don't have no
Flipping
number
pages.
in my phone memorized except for my number.
That's a whole other thing. I fear that there's a lot of trust that goes into technology, and we lose our sense of actually being able to do things ourselves, or we can put ourselves in a very vulnerable position
to be taken advantage
of.
Yeah.
Have you seen Insecure?
Yeah, the
There's like, have you seen the episode with the?
Renee don't watch no shows with black women.
Oh, wow.
Black women, come on, bro. Come on,
I've
bro.
seen it once or twice.
He's seen Ally McBeal. What's that show on Amazon with the white girl? With the white girl lost? Was it? No, some white girl on Amazon.
I've seen a couple episodes.
Yeah.
Well, you remind me of this old dude in one of the episodes where like somehow
Why I gotta be the old dude? All right.
Well, Issa ends up like trying to get this old dude to ride, and she's like, "Where are you going?" And he was like, "I'll tell you how to get there."
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "No, I can just put it into the GPS." And he's like, "No, I'm not having you trying to tell the government my business."
that's you.
That's a whole other thing. That's a whole other thing too.
Hey, my brother, it was lovely having you here, man. We got to have you back because we got to go into. I want to go down a whole rabbit hole, man. You know what I'm saying? This has been another great episode of Three Black Guys on the Couch. If you want to follow Alex on Twitter, Alex, your Twitter is
it's my first name, which is @ALAXIC.
great. If you want to follow Renee on IG, Renee, what's your IG?
It's Renee Wiley, ITSRENEWILEY.
Even though I don't know why in God's name you'd want to follow Renee.
I'm funny
in any way, shape, or form.
I'm funny and motivational.
It's yours.
I've got it. It's yours.
That's right. It's yours. You can follow me at Human Being, HYUMAN Being, because I'm a human being in living this experience. I exist solely to make the world a better place and to existentially malfornicate in every dimension of psychosis. This has been Three Black Guys on the Couch. Like and subscribe.